The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, my name is Janani Sharma, and welcome to Inspiring Vibes. Today I have with me Joshua Pollock, who is the co-author of the book The Hearfulness Way, which he wrote with Kamlesh D. Patel and himself. Joshua Pollock is a heartfulness practitioner and trainer, an accomplished classical violinist who has performed throughout the world with famous music directors like A.R. Rahman. Joshua is enthusiastic about sharing his passion for meditation. He lectures, holds practical demonstrations in corporate, educational, and governmental settings, and he provides ongoing individual support to heartfulness practitioners. Most recently, Joshua was invited to speak at the Commonwealth Club, Amazon, AT&T, Google, Intel, Oracle, and Microsoft, along with many other companies. Joshua holds a Bachelor of Musical Arts degree from Indiana University, and 2 master degrees from the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London. Thank you so much for joining us today. I truly mean it because I know you have been very busy these past couple of days, and I hope you're sleeping well and I hope you're all right. But I just wanted to thank you for coming today. Yeah. So I wanted to start out asking a couple questions. So nowadays, meditation is quite the buzzword. Many people have heard about meditation on breath, mindfulness, etc. So I wanted to ask, why should we meditate, and what in particular, how does heartfulness especially differ from mindfulness, meditating on the heart, in terms of its tools, process, and support for its meditationers?
Okay, well, I want to quote somebody. I want to quote a wise man who once said that people meditate to escape the jaws of the wolf. Okay? Because what are these jaws of the wolf? I think we all know them in our own lives. Suffering, stresses of all kinds, challenges of all kinds that we don't know how to deal with. And the effects of these are what cause us so many problems. We're not able to, because you see, on the inside, you can say that we have the soul, right? And the quality of the soul is restfulness, it's peacefulness, it's inactivity. And on the outside we have the body, and we have the world around us. And that, there's no inactivity, there's constant movement, constant change, and we lose our footing. We don't find stability. Things are always changing around us, and we can't predict anything, which causes us stress also. So, in between the body and the soul, there's some kind of interface, which we can call consciousness. When our consciousness is completely fixated and settled and directed on the external world, right, then we don't feel restful at all. Then we don't have peace at all. But when consciousness is settled in the opposite direction, on this, what we can call the soul, right, or the essence of what we are, then we start to experience that peaceful effect. We can call it the soul, or we can call it our source even. You know, if you go into the heat, if you stand in the sun, say, here we are in Nashua, New Hampshire. It's about, I don't know what the actual temperature is, but it feels like it's 100 degrees. So you just go out for a moment and you start to sweat, right? You become really hot. You know, I walked from the car to the studio wearing this jacket, and it was miserable, right? So you become hot. You go into the cold, you go to the Arctic, and you freeze, right? So you imbibe the effect, you know. And so what happens if you come into contact with the source within yourself? You start to imbibe its effects too. And you imbibe that peacefulness and that balance. So this is, inside us we have an oasis. And if we only know how to access that oasis, then our experience of life changes. Though none of the things externally change, they no longer leave their effects on us as they usually do. So we can handle them better, in fact.
Thank you for that answer. It was plentiful, informative. I wanted to ask, so in some of your previous talks about heartfulness, for example, you gave one yesterday, you talked about, for example, different audiences to which you give these talks to, such as corporate workers especially, have especially impactful reactions to the heartfulness relaxations and meditations. So I thought it would be fun if you could illustrate any anecdote, some of your past experiences of some perhaps special, particular situation in which somebody would have.
Well, see, I think the reason, I mean, if you go into a corporate setting, I think the reason they respond to it in such a dramatic way is because they're comparing it to their normal state, which is so much stress. There's that contrast, you know, and then they feel the relief from that. I want everyone to have their own anecdote. That's the thing. You see, we can listen to stories. You know, you can read so many books about people who have meditated and what they've achieved. And those stories and those great figures are there in the history books. They're not in the history books, but in certain kinds of literature. We can read all about them. We can hear secondhand what people have to say and about the experiences of others, but that won't help us one bit. You have to have your own experience to really grasp it and to really appreciate it. So this is what I would encourage everybody to do. Have your own experience. Meditate yourself. Meditate in any way you want, but also then you can compare it. Try heartfulness, because you asked me about mindfulness too. And what is mindfulness? Or other so many forms, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So I mean, I can't comment and compare everything, because what I know is this meditation, and I know that it's helped me, and I see its effects on others too. But if you want to compare, you can compare, but then do it in a systematic way. You know, try it 1 week, try one kind of meditation. Another week, try another kind of meditation. Try heartfulness as well. And it doesn't cost anything, so you can't lose out on it. So in this book, I'm speaking with my own guide, my own mentor, Kamlesh Patel. And the first question I ask him in the book is, why meditate? And his answer is, why not? There's nothing to lose from it, but there's a lot to gain. But to understand what you gain, you have to do it. So if you feel like it, if you want to experiment, then do it and see for yourself what's going to happen. For me, it was a huge surprise, because I had meditated in many other ways. So my expectations were set by my previous experiences. But then when I actually meditated with a heartfulness trainer, it was like someone who was begging for scraps, and then someone gives them a banquet instead. Right? It so far exceeded my expectations that I was in a state of wonder. And that state of wonder made me want to come back the second day, and the third day. And now it's 16 years, and I'm still meditating in the same way, because this is something that keeps unfolding and keeps opening up further. You know? So it keeps inspiring me to go on and continue this journey and this process of meditation. You know?
So like a Mariposa lily, which is only complete with its primary 3 petals, the Heartfulness Way also has 3 practices, which makes it complete: meditation, prayer, and cleaning. Would you be able to divulge a little bit about what are these simple practices and why they're needed to make the practice whole?
So I've just learned something, so thank you. Okay, so yeah, heartfulness, it's a practice that you can easily integrate into your life. It's not very demanding, and it's not very time-consuming. But there are 3 aspects to it, 3 techniques that we use, main techniques. And one of them is meditation itself. But there are 2 other things too. Now, one of them is prayer. And I think everybody knows what prayer is, because, you know, that's a part of just about every single spiritual tradition. But the way we offer prayer, see, oftentimes when we pray, we're asking for something. Or sometimes we're not asking, maybe we're begging for something even, you know? Now, we have to understand that religion, the idea of religion itself is to reconnect you to your source, right? Idea of yoga is also to reconnect you, not even to reconnect you, but to unite you with your source. But it's the same idea. This idea of separateness remains, that somehow we've become separated from the rest of the world, one another, everything, that we're our own island. This feeling of isolation is there within us. So when we pray, obviously it's to recreate that connection, right? And to strengthen that connection. But what happens when we go and we meet with a loved one? And the entire time we're sitting next to that person, we're just thinking, what can this person do for me? What can they give me? What can I get from them, right? So of course this attitude isn't going to promote closeness. right? So how can that same attitude promote closeness with that, absolute source that we're aspiring to regain intimacy with, if we only go with the idea of what can I get? So an idea of a gift is that the gift should promote a sense of closeness between the giver and the receiver. But if the receiver is focused only on the gift itself and forgets about the giver, then there's no point in the gift. So our attitude of prayer is not to ask for things. Our attitude of prayer is to recognize that it's our wishes that are getting in the way of this relationship, right? And so we have to pray in such a way that it turns into a state of meditation in which we are becoming so in sync with that sort of higher presence that in the end we start to unite. And we have to, and also only like can unite with like. You can't unite oil and water, right? You can pour them together, but they'll separate, right, in their own respective layers. So two things have to be similar in order for that closeness to be there. So at our very heart, at our very nature, the divine is the divine, right? Whether it's contained in a cup, you can put water in a cup, and then you have the ocean also, right? And then you pour it out of the cup into the ocean, and water is water, right? So what are these layers? You can take this cup, or you can take water and put it in a pot, and let that pot float along on the ocean surface, So the thing now is to remove this sort of that which is not water, right? Remove this layer that separates the two. And this is what we achieve in another practice called cleaning. We remove these things which are not authentically a part of us. And what is that I'm talking about? On a day-to-day basis, we have a lot of interactions. And through those interactions, we create emotions, emotional reactions in ourselves. Now those emotions, what do? They go and they sit in the subconscious. They don't leave. And we know that that's the case because something can re-trigger them in us. An emotion from the past can come out when we're reminded of it, or when we enter a situation which is similar to that situation which they originally created, right? So these emotions, now what happens? They get re-triggered. Now so we know that they've been there the whole time, right? And not only have they been there, but they've been, from the subconscious, they've been guiding the way we behave, the way we think, the way we feel. Subliminally perhaps, but they have been. So that shows us that the way we interact with the world and with others is in some way conditioned by past experience. The past has left its effect on us. And so when we're actually interacting with somebody, rather than seeing that person as they are, we are, in fact, we are applying a sort of bias that's been created in the past, right? We're reacting to them according to our past experiences. So we're not able to see them or respond to somebody as they are. We're not able to, people talk about being in the present. But how is it possible to be in the present if everything is determined by the effects of the past? So we have to remove the past from us. We have to remove the effects of the past. And this is what we do through this process of cleaning, right? This is what we do. And part of that, it's, and how does this help us with this idea of union? This is all about our minds as well. Human beings create, right? We're creating our experience of the world and of ourselves. And when we have a thought, and we give attention to that thought, and we give power to that thought, power of emotion to that thought, then we create an experience for ourselves. But that experience isn't necessarily aligned with reality, right? Because we've mismanaged our minds, we've mismanaged our thinking, we've created in the wrong way. So this is partly about removing those illusions that we've created for ourselves, gaining true perception. And when, all of that is removed and only the reality remains, then you can say that the water in the jug is equal to the water in the ocean. And then the two can, be one. So that's kind of what it's all about.
Thank you. So like I had mentioned before, you are a world-renowned violinist. That's what you do. You've worked with
Not world-renowned. I'm a violinist. You go on.
With the likes of widely known music directors like
Yes,
Rahman. And just today, my sister and I were listening back to the tracks of Delhi 6, which we had listened to our whole lives, and we're like, I bet that's Joshua. That's gotta be.
Okay.
But either way, off of that,
I'm glad you like it.
just as a violin can only play beautiful music when its strings are held taut with tension, how do the challenges and obstacles that we face in our everyday life affect our spiritual journey? Would it affect or aid whatever you feel? If you could talk about that.
Well, I think that the challenges, it again depends on our attitude to our challenges. If we resist the challenges and we react against the challenges, then we're just going to create more complexity in ourselves. But on the other hand, if we're able to accept those challenges, and beyond even accepting them, be grateful for those challenges, then with that kind of attitude, we'll be able to overcome them. But not just overcome them, but we'll be able to tap into resources that we never knew. You can't tap into a resource unless, something has to pull it out of you, So I don't think we can actually embrace things like that, unless we accept them in the first place. And then having embraced them, then, more capacity is revealed, so then we can work better. We can work, I may think that I'm only a violinist, and I become narrower and narrower, and my capacity becomes extremely limited. I can only do this. And then maybe I become demanding and say, no, I won't wash the dishes, you do that. And I become a diva, right? So I think this goes against the ideal of service that we should have whenever we are, with anybody. We should not feel that we are above anybody. And it's even better to think that we're beneath other people, because then we're willing to support them in some way. You can't support anyone or help anyone if you're above them. You have, the foundation can support, So in order to be able to, accomplish that, I think we have to say there's nothing that's beneath me, there's nothing that's above me. I'll accept whatever work there has to be done. So then, of course, we can accept more and more challenges, and we can fit into any situation in which we're necessary. When something needs to be done, we can do that. And then, and moreover, if we're grateful for it, then it'll be sort of a blissful life. Work will become a blissful thing. The thing is that what tells us what we need to do is mostly, I think, the conscience. There's some signal from inside. People outside can tell you what to do. That's very easy. But to realize, yes, I should do this, there's a signal from the heart that'll tell us this. And whether that's a signal that we accept or not is another story. If you divide yourself off into two entities, the one that's saying you do this, and the other one that says, no, I don't want to do it, and then you're fighting with yourself. So yoga is about union, right? Meditation is about union. So that means that we have to be, have coherence. We have to be integrated. And so therefore, this whole thing, this whole path, is about learning to follow this conscience with joy. Learning to follow it with joy, right?
Okay, thank you. My next question is, so you wrote this book alongside, as you said, your spiritual guide, Mr. Kamlesh D. Patel. And in your book, you talk about your early on ventures with meditation. You, quote, wondered whether finding a capable teacher might involve trekking deep into the Himalayas or traveling to some remote locale. So what I wanted to ask you is, what is the significance of the guide in meditation, and how do you know that you have found the right one for you?
We can know the significance, we can know the significance by meditating on our own, and then meditating with a trainer, and understanding that difference for ourselves. I mean, if there is a difference, we should be able to feel the difference. If it creates a different effect, we should be able to feel that effect. If we don't feel that effect, and we don't feel it immediately, then I think we can conclude that there's no difference. This is something you should be able to, if you go and meet a trainer, you should be able to tell within the first, 1, 2, 3 sessions whether this is helping you or not. And if it's not helping you, then you can... But it is very helpful. And no, that's a trainer. Now you're talking about something else, though, because, Kamlesh Patel is not just a heartfulness trainer, but he's sort of I would say the guide of this whole, the Heartfulness Institute itself, and sort of the custodian of this method, the heartfulness method, And, if you're going to accept somebody into your life, it has to create a peaceful effect on you. That person has to create a peaceful effect on you, right? We don't even need to meet such a person. I think the thing is that if they have a practice that they recommend, and you practice their practice, then you can conclude something about the person who's given you the practice. Like if you have a piece of clothes made by the tailor, you can judge the tailor by the quality of their work. Right? So if somebody gives you a practice, or if somebody has invented a practice, and then if you practice it, and it has a good effect, then you should be able to conclude something about the quality of this person. So I think that's the best way to judge. And what kind of effect does it produce in you? If you practice and your heart becomes heavy with doubts, not just mental doubts, because the mind always doubts, but heart is heavy with doubts, then you can go do something else. But if, as I said, it creates this peaceful effect in you, then at least you can say, let me continue and see what comes next. And that'll change too. It'll expand, as I said, because for me it's been expanding for 15, 16 years.
So in the beginning of your book, you talked a little bit about your early on ventures towards finally finding heartfulness as the right practice for you. You talked about trying different meditations, yoga, even martial arts. So what I thought would be interesting to ask you was, say you had found a book like The Heartfulness Way in the early 2000s. What do you think your reaction would have been? Do you feel that it would have been a simple answer, that's it?
Oh, this sounds like something I would do. No, I don't know. Yeah, well, see, that's part of why, it's not why I wrote it. This book, you have to understand, is a series of questions, it's conversations between myself and Kamlesh Patel. He called me one day and asked me to write a book, and I said yes. And then, we talked about what the book would be like, and then those talks ended up becoming the book, which was also unexpected. So it's a book of dialogues. Now, in retrospect, yeah, I found this, I just ran across this practice. I was looking for other things, but my looking for meditation didn't lead me to heartfulness. What led me to heartfulness was just a random encounter with somebody, just on the street, right? Just getting to a chat with somebody on the side of the road, and it turns out, just comes out naturally that they meditate. So that's how I found out about this. So I could have easily missed it, and then I would have lost out a lot. So I am glad that there is a book out, because so now other people, they don't have to rely on some coincidence in order to find it, So, that's for me, and I think also for Kamlesh Patel, our goal here isn't that the whole world has to meditate. If they want to, they should know where to find something that's really effective. Right? They should know where to find something that can profoundly change them. So that's what heartfulness can do. And this book is something that can tell you how you can practice and change yourself. Because reading the book itself won't be enough. It's a book about a practice, and it's the practice that changes us, not any kind of wisdom that we gain from reading it. So it's a book for people who want to dive in and take a practical approach.
So thank you once again for coming today. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the book itself. This is a visual. It's once again called The Heartfulness Way. It can be found at theheartfulnessway.com, but since released in January, it has also sold over 150,000 copies in India. It's been a #1 bestseller in India as it was released by the President of India. You can find it on Amazon, which it is also a #1 bestseller in numerous categories. Google it. It will be on barnesandnobles.com, your local bookstore, anywhere where you can find books, where you want to find books and order things, you will be able to find it there. I hope you check it out. I did, and I really liked it. So thank you so much again for coming and talking about your book today.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.